small models, right, which is the talk of the town. So maybe with coming of iPhone 16, like AI intelligence, so it is more or less similar, right?
Correct, Rohan. So basically, see, till now we have seen models which are huge, trillions of parameters. Now we have these series of models. So 3.5 is the new version in the 5 series of models, right? Where
Right.
these are cost effective small language models. So
Yes.
what do I mean by cost effective is basically their size is very less, Rohan. So it's 3.8 billion parameters, it's 6.6 billion parameters, and these are all 128K token wale context length. It's not small matlab, in those sense. They're high context length, their high quality reasoning. So their performance is around Llama 3.1. So they try to replicate bigger models, but in smaller size. So Llama 3.1 is like around 70 billion, 405 billion parameters, and
Right.
this is 338. So it's 10 times lesser size and performance almost same. So how do they do that? Let's go and see just Microsoft blog, and one thing I've also found out, from their older versions, is that they use synthetic data. So what they do is they generate all this data, something like what OpenAI did for O1. They generate their synthetic data and then they train on that data. They follow a concept called textbooks is all you need.
Yes.
So they try to create very high quality curated data. They are not just going to scrape the internet and dump it in the small language model. They are going to clean it, साफ सफाई होगी, सब ट्रेनिंग डेटा को मस्त अच्छे से चेन ऑफ थॉट में डाला जाएगा, सब कुछ किया जाएगा और फिर ट्रेनिंग होगी इसकी.
Yes. So I think with this model से तेरा problem solve हो जाएगा, दो अभी तेरे को मेटा AI नहीं दे पा रहा है WhatsApp पे शायद. I hope.
Yeah. So these smaller models will enable, Rohan, जो हम Apple Intelligence की बात कर रहे हैं, the
Yes.
smaller models which will run on phones. Eventually, what Andre Karpathy is saying that 1 billion parameter model is enough
Correct.
if you train it properly and you train it with curated data set,
Yes.
synthetic data set. So Andre Bhau ने बोला है, Andre bro has said, follow Andre bro. Okay, those who don't know Andre Karpathy, he's ex Tesla co, Tesla autopilot head, ex OpenAI. He's a great teacher. He has a great YouTube channel. He teaches transformers from scratch. So he's a big guy in AI, right? So
Yeah.
he knows a lot of stuff in and out.
Yes, and I think if anyone wants to learn or know about what recent people are doing, maybe it's good to follow him, right? On maybe on Twitter, on YouTube, and his it's a very good place to get knowledge on this recent tech.
And one more thing, Ron, see, small language models is good for us, people like, us who are working in open source, who have less GPUs, who are
Correct.
GPU poor, because we don't have those H100s and data centers and trillions of dollars, right?
Correct.
We have these small GPUs. I have an RTX, you have an RTX. We want to run these models on our own machine. We
Correct.
want them to be smart as well. So, यहाँ पे we will get those advantages of smaller
करेक्ट एंड आई
language
थिंक इट विल बी
models.
प्रीटी कूल कि जैसे मैं एक मॉडल फोन में डाउनलोड करूं अपने और उसी पे रन करूं जस्ट टू हैव माय ओन लाइक जारविस करेक्ट एंड दैट विल बी वेरी कूल टू डू
Yeah.
इट इंस्टेड ऑफ रनिंग इट समवेयर एल्स एंड डूइंग द इन्फरेंस अभी यही हो रहा है राइट कि मॉडल तो तुम्हारे पास नहीं रहता है तुम बस उसको सम यूआई या वेब इंटरफेस से कॉल करवा रहे हो आई थिंक दिस
True,
इज द
true.
डॉक्यूमेंटेशन इज दैट योर फेवरेट फिल
Small
3.5
language models future for phones. So Apple Intelligence will have small language models. For Androids will have small language models. Even Gemini has very small language model. So
करेक्ट
यहाँ पे इन्होंने क्या बनाया? They have made 3 models. One is Phi 3.5 mini. Then one which is Vision Plus, which can see images also. So they have created Vision, and they have created one mixture of experts architecture. We'll talk about mixture of experts in later streams
नेक्स्ट
in few.
सेगमेंट्स या
Yeah, we'll explain mixture of experts. We'll sit down and explain, and we'll talk about it in detail, in depth. Let's scroll if there is some interesting information present over here. So again, we have these benchmarks. See, 3.5 is doing 30, arena hard, big bench hard. So they're testing it on MMLU, which is 78%, MMLU Pro, which is 54%. So it's doing good. It's comparing itself with Llama 8 billion models. Okay,
करेक्ट
it's twice the size.
and even it is comparing with GPT-4o mini,
Yes,
right?
mini.
So
Yes,
I
yes.
think this accuracy is good depending on the scale or the size of these models, right? That to perform a very small task, you will not always be needing a model with trillions of
Yeah,
parameters, right? We can take help of these small models and we can it will help you solve your problem and which will be quite
definitely.
quite interesting. right?
Definitely.
And
अगर
I
मेरा
think
if I want to find my passport in my phone, I
I will
don't
not
need
be using
GPT-4 वो तो काम
GPT-4o,
है.
right? Like it will be such a big cost for me
It's a
to
simple
just found
task.
that
Yeah.
perform that simple task. I think then we have different benchmarks on reasoning and then maths that we have already seen. So these are some pretty common benchmark that these days people are actually using to evaluate their models, and which is pretty interesting. And if you visit this site, you will see that these small models is able to compete with very large models and giving on these different areas, and which is very interesting and amazing to see.
Yeah, benchmarks are just set of questions. Some
Correct,
would be math, some would be physics, some would be human eval, some would be multimodal, all those kind of stuff. Okay,
correct.
let's go, run. What else do we have here?
I
Kuch
think
mazes,
then we
maz-
have this popular benchmark that we already talked. Then I think multilingual
Yeah,
capability is
this as
actually, it's very
we should
interesting,
see the
right? This side.
language one, yeah, language one. Arabic, Chinese, Dutch, French, German, Italian,
Yes.
Russian, Ukraine. So these models now able to speak in multiple languages.
And I think
Hindi would be also one of those,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think depending on after working for 1 year, what I have seen is when you will work on actual problems, you will see that you will not get most of the documents in English. Some US for most. So if you want to solve any problem, let's say, so there can be chances that you will get some document in Chinese, some document in English, some in French. So these capability is very important for model to have to actually maybe give an output in a specific language model, or to able to understand those inputs in the rack that we are trying to give, right?
Understanding of language is very important one
Correct.
because let's say galti because क्या होता है if you don't know about that language, right, these
Yeah,
prompt injectors use those language to inject false things in the model. They try
correct,
to prompt hack using other languages. So that is how also people are trying to manipulate. So it's important that the model knows all the languages, and eventually I think all the models will know all the languages. So we will not need like an India specific model like a Hindi or a Gujarati model. Google will provide a model which has 18 languages, 20 languages, all these languages
correct.
baked into the model, right?
Yeah. Then I think it is about 3.5 mini. It is the
Yeah,
same
this
benchmark.
is. I want to go to the that paragraph. Yeah, 5.3 Mini has undergone fine further pre-training using multilingual synthetic data and high quality filtered data. This is what we were talking about, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It has gone through synthetic data and high quality filtered data. This was followed by a series of post-training step. So this step was pre-training, where you are providing quality filtered data and synthetic data, where you are doing pre-training. 2-3 महीना 1 महीना चलाया उसको, वो चल रहा है, सीख रहा है, is learning. That's a pre-training part. Now,
Correct.
once you're done with pre-training, you have a model, right? Now, what you do is you do post-training steps on that. What are post-training steps? Post-training steps are supervised fine-tuning, where you take a fine-tuning data set और उसको फिर चैट के फॉर्म में फाइन ट्यून करते हो, उसको
Correct.
चैट स्टाइल में उसको फॉर्म में फाइन ट्यून करते हो. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एफ सुपरवाइज फाइन ट्यूनिंग. एंड देन ये पीपीओ और डीपीओ इज बेसिकली अ रिप्लेसमेंट फॉर आरएलएचएफ, जहाँ पे आप उसको डायरेक्टली बोलते हो कि ये 4 आंसर मुझे. सो व्हाट यू डू इज फॉर वन क्वेश्चन you generate 4 answers, okay,
Correct.
and now on based on 4 answers you use another model to rank which are the
Yes.
4 out of 4, which is the first preference, second preference, third preference, instead of thumbs up, thumbs down. और फिर ये ट्रेनिंग डेटा में बेक इन हो जाता है. सो दिस इज हाउ योर रिमोट मॉडल गेट्स ट्रेन. सो दे आर डायरेक्टली प्रेफरेंस ऑप्टिमाइजिंग है, डीपीओ, दैट्स व्हाट दे आर सेइंग, राइट?
Yeah.
तो इससे क्या होता है कि मॉडल को पहले से ही पता होता है कि सही जवाब किस तरह के देने हैं, राइट,
Nice.
जिब्रिश जवाब कैसे नहीं देना है. एंड दिस प्रोसेस यूटिलाइज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन लेबल्ड, synthetic and translated data sets. So this is how they are making these models so efficient, high quality data, high quality filtered synthetic data.
I think it's pretty cool, right? Because now different models can able to evaluate their results, and with that it will help them to be better. Correct. So instead of पहले कैसा होता था ओपन एआई में कोई बंदा बैठाते थे टीम एंड दे यूज टू गिव थम्स अप थम्स डाउन दैट रिवॉर्ड मॉडल यूज टू गेट ट्रेन सो एंड इट यूज टू टेक लॉट ऑफ टाइम राइट but with this type of automation we will be able to create much better outputs or better models right in coming future.
Definitely, definitely. Even the O1 model, right? It is
Yeah.
trained on not RLHF. It's trained on classic reinforcement learning.
Hmm.
So that's where they have trained it to build this chain of thought. This chain of thought has been built by classic reinforcement learning, and this model quality just in 3.8 billion parameter size. I mean, this is really good. Let's go and see what else do they have. So this is 5.3 mini, right?
Yeah.
Now, what do they have? They have
Then I
multilingual
think,
capacity.
and I think it's the
Yeah,
same
multi.
thing, right? Like different benchmarks,
Yeah,
multilingual
yeah.
capacity, then different languages that they can support. So if you see the scores, it's pretty interesting, right? So in Arabic, it scores 44, but GPT-4o Mini scores 67, which is not that that huge difference depending on their data sets that they
Hmm.
are trained on, the number of parameters they have, correct?
Also considering, Ron, that the size of the model is
Is
10 times smaller than 4O mini.
correct,
So it's smaller. Even Chinese, it is 52%, 70%. Dutch mein 57%, 70%. So it's catching up.
correct.
It's catching up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we
Long
have
context,
the
yes.
long
This
context.
is one thing that we have to
This is
watch.
our favorite, right? Because जब आप actual production grade applications बनाने या real problem solve करना चाहोगे, so you will not get a PDF which is just have one pages. So long context is one of the biggest problem. निसार तूने भी देखा होगा with your experience, right? It is a
Yes.
very big problem to
Endless
in
times.
less times, right?
Yeah. So see, what happens is basically tokens का क्या मतलब होता है, ये सब होता है. We will go in, we will do one live stream where we, sit and explain LLMs from scratch. तब अपन ये सब बात करेंगे. Right now, what it means is that it takes 128K words, right? 128K words means it can process 128,000 words approximately at one point of time. It can do summarization of long documents. This transcript of this live stream itself, it can process it if it is under 128K words, right? So it can do that. It can do question answer. Let's say, on this stream, if a user is asking, find me when they were talking about O1 model, right? This kind of question answering can happen. So Phi 3.5 performs better than Gemma 2, which is Google's models, smaller models, which supports 8K context length. And this is basically a long context. So इसमें क्या होता है कि रोहन, when you train the model initially, right, it comes
Mm-hmm.
with 4K tokens and 8K tokens only.
Correct.
एंड फिर ये लोग एक डेटा सेट बना चुके हैं जिसके अंदर 128 के टोकन्स के सारा डेटा पड़ा हुआ है. And then they fine tune the model to understand these longer context also.
Yes.
So this is how basically they are increasing context length. You see Rashi here, right? 5.3 mini 4K में कितना है, 8K context length पे कितना है, 16K पे कितना है, 32K, 64K and 128K. So this is how basically context length भी ऐसे धीरे धीरे बढ़ाया जाता है. You don't
Correct.
just go from 4K to 128K.
And
You
I
know.
think eventually it will be in millions because to solve actual real problem, we will definitely need very large context that is not available at this point of time. But abhi jitna hai, I think with those vector database and RAG and semantic similarity search and advanced things like filtration and all this, abhi chal jata hai kam. But I hope that
Yes.
this will increase in future so that you don't have to do all those things and can be
Al-
processed once.
Also, Rohan, your biggest skill, chunking. Chunking is one thing that you
Yeah,
like a
so
lot.
yes, so chunking and
How
then
could you forget it?
metadata filtration, creation of metadata tags and doing the filtrations on cognitive search. Yeah, it's a pain,
Okay.
but that's
ना,
fine.
अपना
But
दुख
but
अपने पास रखो.
but I think it's a very good increase from 4K to 128K. इतनी तो सैलरी नहीं बढ़ती मेरी बढ़ जाती तो मजा आता 4,000 से
So
128K in
even
2 years.
Rohan, Google के models है जिसमें 2 million तक context length है. So
हाँ,
we have models with go till 10 also. Google ने तो research paper में बोला भी है कि we have model which extracts needle in a haystack problem 10 million also. Needle in a haystack is basically क्या कि आपने उसको हैरी पॉटर की सातों सात बुक दे दी, ठीक है?
correct.
एंड यू आर टेलिंग नाउ फाइंड मी कि भाई वोल्डेमॉर्ट और हैरी पॉटर की पहली बार मुलाकात कहाँ हुई थी और
Yes,
उस टाइम पे क्या क्या पांच चीजें हुई थी ये मुझे बताओ. So
correct.
that is basically we are looking for a fact in a haystack, a needle in a haystack. So
मतलब
that's how they
डेटा
test.
वॉल्यूम बहुत ज्यादा है बट दैट सोर्स
हाँ,
ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन बहुत छोटा है उसमें से उसको निकाल के लाना
yes.
है एंड दैट्स वेयर
We
दिस
are finding needle
yeah and I think
in the
that's where
haystack.
this long context actually works अगर वो अच्छे से ट्रेन किए गए हो तो ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि दे दिया लॉन्ग कॉन्टेक्स्ट 1 मिलियन बट कुछ आ ही नहीं रहा है so like you are pumping and dumping the
बहकी
data
बातें करेगा.
and वो कुछ भी hallucinate कर रहा है so I think we'll see in future but I think Phil 3.5 is very interesting model and
Yeah.
we can use this in smaller devices on in your laptop on in your phones or your desktop and we can see how it actually performs.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on these smaller series of models, Rohan. Let's scroll down if we have anything remaining. अरे है वो स्विगी वाला था क्या?
नहीं रे मेरा रूममेट था स्विगी वाला नहीं था
अच्छा, मुझे लगा तेरा खाना आ गया, हेलमेट हेलमेट
नहीं
लेके तेरे
खाना
रूम पे रख के जा
आया
रहा
हुआ है नहीं नहीं ब्रो ही इज माय रूममेट वो कहीं जा रहा है
है.
अ, चलो
Oh God. So we have
स्विगी
5.3
वाला
vision.
ज्यादा नहीं
Yeah,
हो जाएगा
we have
स्विगी वाला
5.
घर पे आ जाएगा लाइक प्राइवेसी ऐसा रूम के अंदर
अरे भैया 5 स्टार दे दो,
यस
खाना गर्म है.
Chalo, fit, nice. And I think, so do you want to talk about this vision model or maybe
Yeah, so
next
there's also
topics?
vision model. There's also vision model, which is part of this, series of models they are releasing. Vision model वही है जो images ले सकता है, जो देख सकता है. Vision model is basically, till
OCR
now
है.
we have large language. Yeah, we have large language models which are taken language, which understand text,
Yes.
right? Now these comes VLMs, vision language models, where they can see PPT screenshots, they can see images. You can ask it, okay, how many dogs are there in this image? What they are showing this only, right? They're
Yes.
showing a PPT over here, and they're summarizing multiple PDFs. They're giving 10 PPT images, and they're telling that give me a summarization. You can also do on video summarization.
Correct.
So we can even put in this live stream and summarize it using video only,
तो कोई
only with
plugin यूज
screen
करता था ना
images.
जो YouTube पे आता है which does this. I think it's this something similar, right? जो YouTube के videos summarize करके देता है, right?
It uses transcript. It uses transcript. That one
Okay,
uses
then
transcript.
that's
This
it.
is screenshot based.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So I think this will require more processing because transcript se to it's very easy, right? Then we can use any large language model to do it. Okay,
Yeah.
pretty interesting. So I
So
think that's all
this is
about
how
this vision model.
models. Yeah, this is how models are becoming multimodal. This is the multimodal world now we live in.